From Babylon to Timbuktu, Epilogue. At the time that I am writing these pages, Reverend Ralph Abernathy is traveling around the country telling the American people, I am going to Washington to tell the pharaohs to let my people go. As it was with the pharaohs of ancient Egypt, so it is unlikely that the leaders of Washington will concede to the demands of the poor people's march. Considering all the rampant violence in the United States, there are many indications that the march on Washington will erupt into violence. The power structure concedes nothing without a demand. When the government refuses to effect reforms and to implement justice, the people lose respect for the institutions of law and order. Law and order without justice are worthless in a democracy. When peaceful demonstrations do not soften the attitude of the government, militant and vigorous tactics must be employed by the militants in order to prevail upon the government. These tactics sometimes come close to anarchy. At this tense point, a mass movement can travel in one of two directions. If the government concedes to the demands of the people, all well and good. The mass movement falls apart because it has accomplished its objective. On the other hand, if the government refuses the demands of the mass movement, it generally downpresses the rebellion of civil disobedience. When the people continue to rebel, and the government continues to downpress, this condition leads to fascism and a dictatorship. There follows mass murder, which is committed in the name of law and order. Dr. Martin Luther King expressed these thoughts before he was assassinated. If the conditions do not change soon in this country, we will have a fascist police state. In the 1970s, I do not think that America has the moral strength and will to resolve her racial problem and to avert a fascist takeover. But if rapid collective constructive action is taken, immediately we can save the American cities from disaster. If a police state is established in America, this will fulfill the prophecy of Daniel. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. Parts of the earth inhabited by the children of Shem were parts of the territory of Assyria and Elam, Persia, east of the Tigris River, the eastern part of Syria, and parts of the Arabian Peninsula. All the children of Shem were black. This position will be supported by arguments and facts later. The second classification of mankind was the Hamites, who controlled the great centers of civilization in ancient time, 4000 BC, soon after the flood. This civilization included the continent of Africa, the land of Canaan, Israel, parts of Arabia, Syria, Phoenicia, Turkey, Babylonia, southern Persia, Iran, East Pakistan, and a large part of India. The third classification of mankind was Japhites, from Japheth, who was the youngest son of Noah. The offspring of Japheth occupied the isles of the Gentiles, the short territories of the Mediterranean Sea in Europe and parts of Asia Minor, whence they dispersed northward over the entire continent of Europe and a great part of Asia. After Noah's ark rested on the mountain of Ararat and the dispersal of the children of men at the Tower of Babel, Japheth's descendants traveled west, north, and northeast of the mountain of Ararat and the Caucasus Mountains. The Japhites settled near the mountains Taurus and Amos in Turkey. They journeyed to the river Tanais in southern Russia along Europe to Cadiz, Spain. The sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. Genesis chapter 10 verses 2. Gomer was the ancestor of the first Sumerians and of the later Cimbri, including other offshoots of the Celtic family, and of the present-day Gaels of Ireland, Scotland, and the Hebrides Islands. These Sumerians were described by Homer the Greek as dwelling in a remote place of mist and gloom. This place was located north of the Black Sea. The second son of Japheth was Magog, father of the Magogites. Flavius Josephus said that the Greeks called these people Scythians. The Scythians included all the wandering tribes who dwelt mostly near the north of the Black and Caspian Seas. They were regarded by ancients as tremendously lacking in intelligence and civilization. The third son of Japheth was Madai, the father of the Medes. They were located at the southern part of the Caspian Sea, and they later united with the Persians to form one race. From Javan, the fourth son of Japheth, came Ionians and all the Greeks. Tubal, the fifth son of Japheth, is associated with Javan, Isaiah 66, verse 19.
Isaiah chapter 66. And I will set a sign among them, and I will send those that escape of them unto the nations, to Tarshish, Pul, and Lud, that draw the bow, to Tubal and Javan, to the isles afar off, that have not heard my fame, neither have seen my glory. And they shall declare my glory among the Gentiles. Verse 20. And they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto the Most High Yah, out of all nations, upon horses, and in chariots, and in litters, and upon the mules, and upon swift beasts, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, says the Most High Yah, as the children of Yashara'el bring an offering in a clean vessel into the house of the Most High God.
Meshech and Tubal, Ezekiel chapter 32, verse 26, and 39, verse 1, are nations of the north of the focal point of the land of Israel. Josephus identified the descendants of Tubal with the early Iberians, Iberes. They were the inhabitants of the territory between the Caspian and Euxine seas, which is Georgia and southern Russia. The last son of Japheth was Tiras, the father or ancestor of the Thracians. This land, Thrace, was situated north of Turkey, Asia Minor, and the northeast of Greece. Japheth's grandson, Ashkenaz, formed the Germanic race. In the Hebrew language, the word means German. By 378 AD, the Germanic tribes were on the move. They were known under these names: Lombards, Burgundians, Franks, Saxons, Angles, Jutes, Ostrogoths, Visigoths, Sueves, and Vandals. These 10 Germanic barbarian tribes settled all over Western Europe and intermingled with modern nations of Western Europe as we know them today. All these tribes were the descendants of Japheth. The ancient people did not classify races according to skin color, like the modern nations of Europe and America. The ancients, including the Greeks and Romans, identified people according to their national or tribal names. They used such names as Visigoths, Vandals, Saxons, Ethiopians, Carthaginians, Jews, Arabs, Persians, Babylonians, Egyptians, and Moors. They did not use the term Negro, which is a modern term, to refer to black races, or the word Caucasian to refer to white races. Dividing the world along a color line was an idea that originated with the white supremacists in Europe after the Renaissance. The Europeans did not have any great civilization immediately after the fall of Greece and Rome.
These are the descendants of Japheth. If you're looking for the descendants of Ham, they can be found in chapter 10, verses 6 through 20. And if you're looking for the descendants of Shem, they can be found in chapter 10, verses 21 through 31. So that's Shem. And we are Shem, the holy child. But today we will be talking about Japheth, who is the progenitor of all the Caucasian races. So I'm going to start reading, just like I said in Genesis chapter 10, verse 1. Now these are the generations of the son of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dardanum. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. So here in this scripture, only the descendants of Japheth are Gentiles. No other race is Gentiles. Just the Caucasian race is Gentiles. And I want to make this very clear, because the definition that they give in the dictionary does not fit what they say as far as what Gentiles means. So I'm going to give you the definition that I wrote down, and I got this out of the Merriam-Webster in case you want that same exact definition. But it says, Gentile, a person of a non-Jewish nation or of non-Jewish faith, especially a Christian, as distinguished from a Jew, heathen, pagan. Yeah, so basically, and it also can mean nations. But I'm going to give you my definition, since I feel this is not a true definition, due to the fact that they say that if you are non-Jewish, you are a Gentile. And this is a white lie, because there were 12 tribes, and there was only one tribe that were called Jews, and that was the tribe of Judah. And if this definition is true, like they say, because the other tribes were not Jews. Dan, Simeon, Reuben, they were not Jews. They were Israelites, but they were not Jews. The tribe of Judah, they're not only Jews, they're also Israelites. So know that the term Jew is specific to the tribe of Judah. And we know this definition cannot be correct, because that would mean just because the other tribes are not Jews, they would be Gentiles. And we know that you cannot be one of the tribes and be Gentiles. So this definition is not true. It's false. And the reason why the definition is false is because they don't want you to know that they are the Gentiles. They want to make it seem like everybody who is not a Jew is a Gentile, and this is not true. Also know that Jewish means Jew-like. It does not mean a Jew. It means like a Jew. And that's why you hear a lot of white people, Caucasian people, refer to themselves as Jews, because it's Jew-like. But by DNA, they are not Jews. All Jews are black. Know that. Now, the definition that I gave to the Gentile is they are descendants of Japheth, who is the progenitor of the Caucasian race. That's the first definition. And then they're also identified as Gentiles, excluding Ham and his descendants and Shem and his descendants. They are also heathens. They are pagans. They are also referred to as the nations in Scripture. They are also the enemies of God and his chosen people, and they are also the seed of Satan. And I will be proving that throughout the Scripture. Now, since we have gotten into the Scripture and we have already read, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. Now, as you can see, when we go up to 9 and 27, there is a prophecy about Japheth. And it says, I'm going to be reading from Genesis 9 and 27. And God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Well, when Gentiles read this scripture, they seem to think that Japheth, that was a blessing for Japheth. This is another white lie. That was a curse for Japheth. Because the scripture does not tell you that he will be enlarged deceptively by going in, murdering, raping, sodomizing other countries, taking advantage of it, stealing all of their wealth, all those types of things. This is what the scripture fails to tell you, and I will prove that that's exactly what they did, and that's what they're in the process of doing right now. Also, it says that he will dwell in the tents of Shem. The only thing about the scripture, it doesn't tell you he's going to be dwelling in the tents of Shem deceptively. I will also prove that. Okay, so we've gone through that scripture, and now we know there's a prophecy about him, and that what Christians teach is so far from the truth about Japheth and his blessing. So let's get started. I do want to point out a few things, because we did speak of scripture, all the scriptures that I provided for you, but I would like to drop down to chapter 10, verse 3, and I want to discuss Gomer's first son, which would have been Japheth. It would have been his grandson. And I want to discuss Ashkenaz. Now, Ashkenaz is the progenitor of the Ashkenazi Jews, which are Caucasians. And just like I told you before, it's impossible for whites, Caucasians, or Gentiles to be Jews or a part of any other tribes. So let's get that straight. Not just Jews, but just Israelites, period. So the reason why I want to discuss him is because names tell you something about people and about the race. And if you see how the name is spelled here, his name is spelled Ashkenazi. But the Ashkenazi Jew, which he is the progenitor of the Ashkenazi Jew, is spelled Ashkenazi. But if you take the last four letters of Ashkenazi, what do you come up with? You come up with N-A-Z-I, Nazi. This shows that he is a progenitor of the Caucasians. And just like I said, it shows that the racism was there from the beginning. This was not something that started, just recently with Japheth and his descendants. This is actually in the beginning of the Bible. And believe me, I don't believe that it's just, a coincidence that, the last four letters of the word Ashkenazi spell Nazi. This is specific to this race of people. So, just like I said, we're going to keep pushing on. We're also going to go into Magog. Well, if you notice in Ezekiel, we will be covering that in chapter 38. Ezekiel also speaks of Gog and Magog because they are Gentiles and they're going to be destroyed. They also mention Tubal, they mention Meshach, they definitely speak of Tyrus. Pretty much all of his whole offspring is involved in the Gog and the Magog situation that also shows up in Revelations. And these are the people that will be destroyed along with Satan, their father. Who is Japheth, our enemy? Okay, starting, we left off in Genesis chapter 2, verses 2 through 5. And of course, we went over the fact that, Ashkenazi, which just like I said, they became the Ashkenazi Jews. So they actually put the I on the end of his name. And I'm pretty sure when they did that, they knew that it spelled Nazi. But we do know that these are the Caucasian races and racism was coursing through their veins from their forefathers. Okay, so this is something that's indicative to this race of people. And we are always going to have problems with these people because of this fact. Just like I said, I also pointed out in verse 5 that these only Caucasians are Gentiles. None of the black race is Gentiles. Just all of the other races, the Mexicans, all those people, they're all Gentiles. Okay, so now, and let me also make sure that you understand, this is why Gentiles refer to themselves as Jewish, because if you look up Jewish means Jew like a Jew, not a Jew. Okay, now we're going to move on to Jeremiah 4 and 7. Let's go there. I thought I already had that set up, but I guess not. And when I get there, I will start reading at Jeremiah 4 and 7. The lion has come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste without an inhabitant. Now, as we can see, Gentiles are going to be destroyed. Now, I don't care what the New Testament is teaching. They are going to be destroyed, and I have many more scriptures, and I will do a video on Gentiles, and it will be nothing but straight scripture on how they're going to be destroyed. And I'm going to go a full 15 minutes on it. Believe me, I could go longer, but the videos are limited in time. Okay, now we're going to head over to Revelations 2 and 9. I'll meet you over there, and then I'm going to start reading. Okay, Revelations 2 and 9. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Now we know today that in Jerusalem and Israel, we have these so-called, what they call themselves, white Jews. We know they're not Jews. They don't even speak Hebrew, they speak Yiddish. And they do the locks of curls in resemblance of our hair that locks up when we don't, So that's why they're doing that. And as you can see in the scripture here, they're saying that they are from the synagogue of Satan. So we know that this is Satan's seed. Those Caucasians that are descendants of Japheth who are living over there in Israel and Jerusalem today. Okay, let's hightail it over to Revelations 3 and 9, and I will start reading from there. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews, and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. So, what God is going to do is make them all of the synagogue of Satan, because they are the seed of Satan anyway. And before it's all over and done with, they are going to come and worship at our feet. Okay, they will do this. Okay, let's go on over to Revelations 27 through 9, and I'm going to start reading from there. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations, which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And they went up on the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven, and devoured them. So now we know that this was after Satan had served his 1,000 years. He's been loosed out of prison, and he's gone straight out to gather the nations. So all the nations are going to become confederate against us again and try to kill us, okay? Also, we have at the forefront of the battle, Gog and Magog, which is all the descendants of the Gentiles. Gog and Magog, which is the specific grandson or son. He is the son of Japheth. So therefore, here they are, and as you can see, they've gathered everybody together against those who are as the sand of the sea, which would be Abraham's seed. So now that they've done that, now they, of course, surround the camp that we're in. And as you can see, God rains down fire from heaven and destroys those Gentiles. And so they are taken out of the way.
Biblical post-hypnotic suggestion. I'm not talking about 1,000 years. I'm talking about 2,700-year-old suggestion that they're responding to now. And we could actually film these people and match the prophecy with the events. And the reason it should matter is that because once they do what they have to do, they trigger the apocalypse.